What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and today I want to give you my breakdown and prediction for the main card of UFC 305 going down this weekend, headlined by the middleweight championship of the world. Dricus Du-Plessis, newly minted middleweight champion, versus former middleweight champion, two-time champ Israel Adesanya. Bad blood is fuming in this fight. But there's also other good fights on here. We got Kai France back taking on Steve Erceg. Tuivasa looks to snap his L streak against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. The Leech is back, finally. Taking on scary prospect in Carlos Prates. And then we also have Dan Hooker coming back as well, taking on Mateusz Gamrot. I'm going to talk about all these fights. And the first fight I'm going to break down is the main card opener, which is Jingliang versus Carlos Prates or Prates. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but very risky comeback fight for Jingliang because he's coming back from a 2-year layoff and an injury. I think he had a back injury too, which is not good. And Carlos Prates is very dangerous, very good striker. He's got a lot of power, a lot of finishes, 14 wins by knockout. However, Lee has never been KO'd before. If there's one thing about Lee that stands out, other than just his power, is his durability, something no one talks about. I can see his durability being a factor in this fight, him being able to take the shots of Prates. And not only can he take it, but he can dish it. Whereas Prates, he's been knocked out before. Lee has more experience too, overall as a fighter and in the UFC. And I feel like if the Leech is anything like he was before this layoff, I think he's better than Prates. And I just think that experience in this fight is going to show. And I'm willing to trust the Leech that he's going to turn up at his absolute A game, that he's going to come back with vengeance, not having competed in a while, coming off a close decision loss to Daniel Rodriguez. I know he's pissed about that. He also didn't get to wear his suit. So the Leech has a lot riding into this matchup, and I just feel like he knows he can't afford to lose this one, because if he does, his career is pretty much over, and he does not want to let this young prospect basically show that he's washed up. He's got a lot to prove, and I think he's going to prove it. The Leech is a very good brawler. Like I said, he's tough, dangerous in the pocket. I feel like he can get Prates against the cage, land some flurries, overwhelm Prates, and maybe find a finish against the cage. But yeah, I'm going to bully predict that the Leech comes back and wins by knockout. Doesn't matter the round, but that's the outcome I'm going with. Now moving up the card, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa. Man, Tai Tuivasa has not been looking too good lately. 4-fight L streak. And he's just getting worse and worse with each performance. I just can't pick him to win this fight. I just can't. I feel like this is just another bad matchup they're throwing at him. Rozenstruik, a very dangerous striker, more technical than Tai Tuivasa. I think both guys are fast, but Rozenstruik's a little bit faster, a little bit more athletic. Both guys are fast starters. I just feel like this matchup at this point in their careers is going to favor Rozenstruik. Biggie Boy, one thing about him that used to stand out was his chin. But ever since that war with Ciryl Gane and then getting knocked out by Pavlovich, I feel like that chin is no longer going to be there to protect him. His defense has always been endure big shots, take shots, and swing back under fire in a brawl. I don't think that's going to work anymore. I feel like Rozenstruik's going to be able to put hands on him early. Tai Tuivasa is going to get badly hurt, just like the Pavlovich fight, but he's going to be too hurt to defend himself intelligently, and he's going to crumble under that pressure, under those flurries, like what happened against Pavlovich. That's my prediction. Biggie Boy, first round TKO. Now moving on to the feature fight, Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot, both men riding a lot of momentum going into this fight, going into this matchup. Gamrot 3 wins in a row, Dan Hooker 2 wins in a row. This is a striker versus wrestler matchup. Dan Hooker is a really good striker. Gamrot's a really good wrestler with really good cardio, really good pressure. He pushes a good pace. His chain wrestling is really good. But usually in these kinds of matchups, it does favor the wrestler. And I am going to have to go with Mateusz Gamrot to win. Although Dan does have a good chance. Gamrot is a little bit chinny. Dan does have some power. He is a very dangerous striker. And both guys share a common opponent against Jalen Turner. Both had close fights with Turner, but Turner did really well in that fight against Gamrot. And Dan could find similar success, but that Turner fight was short notice for both guys, but Gamrot wasn't like prepared for that fight. I mean, Gamrot's the one who stepped up to take that fight, but he wasn't in camp. So that probably wasn't the best version of Gamrot. We're going to see a more prepared Gamrot. Dan's going to be prepared too. But I think Gamrot's going to be able to go out there and implement his wrestling against Dan Hooker. I feel like he's going to be able to get the takedowns when he needs to, get some control time. Even if Dan gets up, I feel like he can get him down again or control him against the cage and just wear on him because Dan does slow down in fights. I feel like his cardio, Gamrot's cardio, could be an advantage in this matchup. So I'm going to say Gamrot wins a decision. I'm rooting for Dan Hooker in this one, though. I want CKB to just sweep this card, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But yeah, my pick is going to be Mateusz by decision. Now, moving on to the co-main event, Steve Erceg versus Kai Kara-France. Both men, two Aussies coming off close decision losses. Erceg coming off his first ever title fight where he arguably wasn't ready. He did very well in that fight. Very well in that fight against Pantoja. Showed a lot of composure. Made it very close. And a lot of people felt he should have won that fight. But then on the other hand, you got Kai, who I thought he beat Amir Albazi. But he lost that fight. Hasn't competed since. But he's looking to come back, get back in the title picture. Both men are. Both men are going to want this win really badly, but only one can succeed. But I think that's going to be Steve Erceg. I'm going to pick Steve to win this fight against Kai Kara-France. Both men are two of the most dangerous strikers in the flyweight division. I mean, they're not the only two dangerous strikers, but this is a striker versus striker matchup, and they're both really good on the feet, and they both have power. They can both knock you out. They're both tough. However, with Steve, it's more so his ground game that actually stands out more than his striking. People don't know this. Steve Erceg has 6 wins by submission, only 2 wins by knockout. Kai has more wins by knockout. But with that being said, I'm going with Steve because I think he's just more well-rounded than Kai Kara-France. Kai is the striker of this matchup who has a style of striking and defending takedowns, whereas Erceg has a style of he can strike and he can also take you down. Steve Erceg also has an advantage with size, and a size advantage. He's bigger, he's taller, which I think that's going to play a factor in this fight. And I think that size is going to help him whenever he does want to mix it up and grapple. And against Pantoja, he also showed to have a very solid chin. Pantoja was landing some heat. He took the shots of Pantoja. I feel like he can take the shots of Kai if he needs to. And obviously in the stand-up, he can do well against Kai Kara-France. I think he can beat Kai standing, or do just enough in the stand-up before getting the fight to the ground to edge out close rounds. So I'm going to go with Erceg via decision. I think this fight's going to be a war. It's going to be a crazy fight because Kai's going to take the fight to Steve Erceg. He's going to look to take Erceg's head off. Erceg is going to look to do the same. But Erceg has just been a bit more active. He has just a bit more momentum riding into this matchup, even though both are coming off losses. Kai is coming off more recent losses, 2 in a row. Erceg was undefeated before losing to Pantoja, and his confidence has to be going through the roof after that performance against Pantoja. And I think it's only going to get better from here for the likes of Steve Erceg, but we shall see. And then the main event, Dricus Du-Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. This matchup has been building up for a long time. Should have happened when Adesanya was champion, but Dricus was injured, so Strickland got the Izzy fight. He beat Israel Adesanya for the belt, and then Dricus, when he recovered, got his title shot, defeated Sean Strickland. Now here we are, finally, Du-Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. I'm going to have to go with Izzy. in this fight. I know arguably I should probably be going with the champion, right? Because he beat Sean Strickland, who beat Israel Adesanya. But MMA math doesn't always work. You know, styles make matchups. I feel like Dricus' style sort of plays into Israel Adesanya's game. You know, Dricus Du-Plessis is a very aggressive brawler. Israel Adesanya is one of the best counter strikers we've ever seen in the middleweight division. The dude is a sniper. I think he holds a massive advantage in the striking against Dricus Du-Plessis. Dricus doesn't have as good of defense as Sean Strickland, so he's going to be open for the shots that Izzy wants to land on him. Now, Dricus is well-rounded. He can also take fights to the ground. He's a very good grappler, but Israel Adesanya also has very good takedown defense. And the fact that this fight has heat behind it, that's going to give Izzy the motivation he needs to show up at his absolute best, which I don't think he did in his last fight. I think in this fight, he's taking it more seriously. I think he's had a much better camp. He's in much better shape for this matchup. And yeah, I just think Izzy at his best is a nightmare matchup for DDP. Because like I said, good takedown defense, superior stand-up, very good defensive footwork, and overall striking defense to deal with that forward pressure of Dricus Du-Plessis. He can also keep up with the 5-round cardio of Dricus Du-Plessis. And yeah, I just think on a good night, skill for skill, I just think Izzy is the better fighter. Now, DDP has a knack for going up against guys that he shouldn't beat. He finds a way to do it anyway, right? Could this be one of those fights? Maybe. But I feel like at some point there's going to come a time where the better fighter is actually going to win, and I'm going to bank on that in this fight between Dricus Du-Plessis and Israel Adesanya. And history shows when Israel Adesanya is locked in, he gets it done. Look what he did against Alex Pereira. Look what he did against Costa and Whitaker in that first fight. I feel like we might see an Israel Adesanya, a similar Israel, show up in this fight against DDP because of the bad blood they have. And I could see this being one of Israel's best career performances. I would not be shocked at a Dricus Du-Plessis win. He's proven himself to be very good. He belongs at the top. He's the champ for a reason. He's a threat everywhere. But I just think Izzy has what it takes to beat him. Like, I just don't care. I can't count out the former middleweight champion. He's one of the greatest middleweights of all time. He's got that championship experience, which I could see carrying him through this fight. And I just see him getting it done. And I'm going to predict Israel Adesanya wins by knockout inside 2 rounds because DDP is very open, very vulnerable when he's closing the distance. And I think Izzy is going to be able to find a counter shot because Dricus always leaves his head on the center line when he's on the attack. Where Strickland, when pressuring, he's not sloppy, he's tight with everything, but he keeps his head off the center line. Dricus' head is on the center line. He's an open target. And I think he's just going to get caught. And I think Izzy's going to get him out of there. And I think Izzy is going to be the second fighter in UFC history to win a belt 3 times in a singular weight class since John Jones, since Randy Couture. He's going to become a 3-time champ. I think we're going to hear and new. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to this fight. It's going to be a good one. Hope Izzy can get it done. I think he will. Who knows? This might be the DJC curse because usually whenever I pick fighters who I want to win in fights that really matter, like of these kind of stakes, is usually when they lose. When I pick against them, they win. Like I picked Pereira to beat Izzy, and then Izzy won. So who knows? But I missed my opportunity to pick Izzy to knock out Pereira. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity. I'm taking a risk making this bold prediction, but it could pay off. I could look back and say I picked Izzy to beat DDP. I could flex that. But yeah, that's it for my breakdown and prediction for UFC 305, the main card. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.